And that's how Huck gets her treats. Hey, Dave Paulides here for Canine Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. And our executive producer is in the building, not paying much attention to the production of the show, but eagerly going for her treat inside the maze there. And by the way, these things are indestructible. You can't chew them apart. And she's a big dog. She's worked on this one for months, and there's not even a tooth mark on it. But we put little frozen liver treats in there, and the vet that we deal with says that those are probably the healthiest thing that dogs just love. And they're freeze-dried liver in little tiny squares. And they're great. She loves them, and she'll do almost anything for them. So let's get to this. I think she'll stick around for most of the time. This is a missing person segment, and this is on Amnesia. And this one's a doozy. Most of these are doozies, but before I get going on this, you guys, I'm humbled by all of you. All of you. You're very nice people. And I mean, occasionally people send me a link to a YouTube or something, and I'll read the comments, and they're horrific. People are rude. I don't see much of that here at all. If I do, I just get rid of them. But I talk about kindness, the kindness revolution. And the kind of people that send me things in the mail, there's a couple out of Florida. And I'll just call them Jean and Gordy. That's the letter they sent. Dear Mr. Paulides, Jean and I have been faithful followers of your show for a couple of years now. A few weeks ago, we saw an episode of your trucker series. I just want to make sure she's not pushing the tripod. The episode was about a guy who drove from Willow Run, Michigan to New Buffalo on the I-94 corridor that you mentioned that has had weird activity in the past. David, I live in Ann Arbor, across the street from exit 172 on I-94. A week after the episode of your show, I was awakened at 4:44 a.m. from a dead sleep. I saw a shroud or pillars of very bright lights outside my window. I first thought that somebody's car was turning around in my driveway. But heck, it's 4:44 a.m. I got out of bed, walked towards the window. They were still all lit up. Just as I was taking 3 steps towards the window, the lights instantly disappeared. I closed my eyes, and I could still see the lights' images in my closed eyes. Something unworldly had to have been the reason for that veil of bright lights outside my home. I told Jean what happened later that morning. She was not with me. She was in Florida. Jean suggested that I share my story with you, and I'd like to hear your feedback. Again, thank you for your work. Your show is awesome, and we try never to miss an episode. Finally, we wanted to tell you how much we enjoy Huck. Both Jean and I have had dogs in the past, and they definitely are our furry companion of choice. Please accept the t-shirt enclosed. We saw it and knew right away. It's a cool t-shirt. It's a big black t-shirt. Huck's on one side, and very nice. So, what do I think about that? A couple of things. First of all, Huck needs to go outside, so we'll let her go now. Thanks for hanging out, Huck. There you go. No bark, okay? I know you probably will now. So, those pillars of light that we talked about, that Gordy talked about, I like to think of something. He didn't mention any sound. So, what was the catalyst for you to awake? I always try to think about that. If there was no sound, would just the bright light wake you up? Or is there some other subliminal message sent to you, hey, get up and watch this? So we live in a really rural area. There's nothing around us. One night, very late, it was probably like 2:30 in the morning, Angie woke up for some reason, just like I'm saying, and she shakes me, get up right now. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? I jump up and she holds my hand. We go to the window across the room, and we're looking across, and we can see the tops of these trees. And I'm going to guess maybe it's 1,000 feet away. And on the tops of these trees is this big ball of light. And I would say the ball of light looked like the size, from where we were, the size of a Volkswagen. And this ball of light was rolling, and it looked like it was shooting off flames, and it was above the trees. And when we saw it, when we first got to the window, it was moving one direction. We saw it, it started moving the other direction pretty quick. It's almost like it knew that we were watching it, and it continued to roll and shoot off these look like flames, but you couldn't see through it, and it was a solid white mass. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. And I asked Angie later on, I said, why'd you get up? You never get up. I don't know, I got up. That's what I'm saying. Some things I think we're meant to see. Why? I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people at a lot of conferences about that. Nobody can put it together. I don't know. But Gordy and Jean, thank you very much for everything in that kind note and letter you sent. I appreciated all of it. Thank you. This story has to do with somebody high up in a church. And this is the second church story now that I've talked about. I'm not looking for them. They're coming to me. This is a reverend named Andrew Daughters, 36 years old, went missing April 23rd, 1957. He was a pastor at the Pasco Episcopal Church of Our Savior in Pasco, Washington. He was married. He had 4 children, oldest being 13, and they all lived in Pasco. And he was born in a city called Ritzville, Washington, which is southwest of Spokane, Washington, right on the Idaho border. Now, April 23rd, 1957, the pastor traveled from Pasco to Spokane to attend the 64th annual Spokane Convocation of the Spokane Diocese. It was a big deal. And he checked into his hotel, saw a bunch of other pastors, talked to him. He checked in kind of early, and he says, hey, I think I'm going to go over to the Episcopal summer camp at Lake Coeur d'Alene. Now, Lake Coeur d'Alene is a big lake. When you're coming from Montana and you're going to Coeur d'Alene, it's beautiful. Big mountains come down into the lake. Lake looks really deep. It's big. Well, he said he was going to go over to the Episcopal summer camp there that's on the lake to check it out before the summer. He had gone to it when he was a kid. He was one of the people that kind of helped organize summer events at the Episcopal camp, and he just wanted to see how bad a damage the winter did to it. Now, let me explain to this. This is Spokane, Washington. This is the Washington-Idaho border. Lake Coeur d'Alene's right there. It's a really short drive. It's a beautiful drive, by the way. And he was going to a place right there at that little tiny finger. I'll show you that in a minute. So back then, 1957, there wasn't a really good road. Here's how going at it. There wasn't a really good road going to the camp. So you had to park your car and hike in about 1.5 miles, especially in the winter months when it hadn't been cleared. So he parked his car and walked in. And the location is on a place called Lofts Bay. It's beautiful and it's remote. So this is a map today, and you can see here's Lofts Bay. There are no big roads going there even today. So here's Coeur d'Alene up here. Now when we're going to Coeur d'Alene from Montana, we drive along this side of the lake, and you drive along it for a while. It's stunningly beautiful. And over on this side would be Spokane. So he gets there, it's late, and we'll skip a little bit here. The following day, April 24th, pastors are going through their day and they're not seeing Andrew. Well, at the end of the day, they happen to go back and they say, let's check on his room, maybe sick. And they open the door and his suitcase is sitting there, it hasn't even been opened. One of the other pastors says, hey, I remember him telling me he was going to the Episcopal camp. Well, 3 of them get into a car and they go, hey, something might have happened, we need to go. So all of them have worked the summer camp over the years, they knew exactly where it was. They get there, they park their car, and they see Andrew's car there, which gives them a sinking feeling in their heart. They make the 1.5 mile trek in. They don't see anything. And they look out in the bay, and there's an 8-foot aluminum boat from the camp out in the middle of the bay, Lofts Bay. That's not a good sign. So they go back to their car, they drive to a home, and they call the Kootenai County Sheriff. And a deputy named John Bender shows up, and he and the other pastors search the grounds till midnight. They don't find anything. Well, I should tell you, who are they searching for? They're searching for this man, Andrew Daughters. He was 36 at the time. He knew this area really well. He'd worked at the camp before. He had been there as a kid. It was in his blood. So deputy decides he's going to have to call out search and rescue the following day. So on April 25th, deputies arrive, land and water. They get the boat. They bring it in. It was leaking water. But when the pastors and the deputy were searching the night before, and all through the night, there was a really, really bad storm that had been there for a couple days. Lake was really rough, lots of rain, mud. It was horrible. And that concerned him because that was going on about the time that Andrew arrived at the camp. Well, April 25th, 26th, the search continues. Lofts Bay, surrounding water. They're looking for anything and everything. They can't find anything. And now it's getting desperate. April 27th, friends and family had heard about the event. We're now converging on the camp. Hundreds of people were searching the grounds, looking for anything suspicious or unusual. Car was parked just like it should have been, locked just like it should have been. Everyone's looking at each other going, what do we do now? April 27th, this had made news all around Idaho and Washington. And the sheriff told residents of the lake to keep their eye open for a body, because it was in the sheriff's mind and the deputies' minds that he was in the water. It was just a matter of time to come up. And the coroner stated that the body would be underwater about 3 days and then it would surface. Problem was that they waited 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, nothing was surfacing. They were puzzled. Now again, I want to emphasize on this, because this is important. This Lofts Bay, that's that little inlet right there on the map. There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. It's not like there was a big population zone there in 1957. And in April, there aren't even a lot of people there camping because it's still cold. The closest thing is there's this rural highway right here. This isn't a big road, friends. This is a small road. It might even have been a dirt road in 1957. So he parks his car here. If he got out of the area, how did he get out? Because there weren't a lot of people there at all. Keep that in mind. On May 3rd, the family has a memorial service for Andrew at his Pasco church. And it was operated by another pastor. And everyone said it was presumed he was deceased. Notifications were made. And at the time, this is peculiar to me. At the time, news articles stated that it had been a rough year for their family. That Andrew's family, their home that they lived in Pasco, caught fire on January 17th, 1957. It was a big fire. Pasco Fire Department got there. They got their 3 kids out, but they were missing 1 kid, the oldest son. He was trapped in the basement and he couldn't get out. Pasco Fire Department risked their lives. They got down to the boy and they saved his life. How many times have we talked about this? Fires in victims' homes. I think that's weird. Just saying, I think that's weird. Another interesting note. In 1927, Andrew had an uncle. It was his dad's brother, who was teaching school in Alaska at the time. And MGM came up to make a movie called The Trail of 98. And they needed a couple of guys to run the rapids on the Copper River. And they were filming it. The rapids were huge. Boat tipped over, both men drowned. It was never stated whether they found the bodies or not. But Andrew's uncle drowned. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you the facts. You deal with it as you may. So, they have the memorial service. He's been thought to be deceased. Haven't found a body. June 30th, 1957. About 2 months after Andrew disappears. Grace Episcopal Cathedral in San Francisco. Let me tell you something. I've been there. It is one gorgeous, beautiful church. Anyhow, a man wearing dirty work clothes sits down with parishioners at the church. Towards the end, he's reading a church bulletin. He asks the parishioner next to him what the date is. And they say it's June 30th. And he says, what? They say it's June 30th. Something happened. He asks this parishioner if he can talk to the man running the services. It's really important. So they wait till the end. This man introduces the man to the clergyman, and he asks for help. And they go into his office. The clergyman says, "How can I help you?" And he says, "I'm not sure how I found the church. 5 minutes ago, I wasn't even sure who I was. But when the parishioner said it was June 30th, it's as though part of my mind woke up. And I think I've had amnesia for a long time. But I'm pretty sure that I'm also affiliated with your church. And the man's thinking, what does this guy mean? So he speaks to him for a long period of time, and he figures out that he has associations with the Episcopal Church in Washington. So as the men are talking, Andrew starts to formulate his own identity. He starts to remember who he is. He says, I think my name is Andrew. And I have daughters, or my name is Daughters, or something. So the clergyman has contacts in Washington, calls one and talks to one of the pastors at another church in Washington. And the pastor tells him, what does this man look like? And they say, why? And he goes, there is a man, a pastor that we lost about 2 months ago named Andrew Daughters. He drowned in Lake Coeur d'Alene. Well, can you imagine? You're the clergyman. It's like looking at a ghost. And they start to talk some more. And then he starts to explain what this person looks like. And the pastor on the phone says, that sounds like Andrew. And they put Andrew on the phone, and the pastor recognizes his voice. He says, you've got Andrew. Well, they make some calls, and they get Andrew's wife on the phone. And it was described as a cry-filled moment when they both were talking on the phone, because Andrew did remember his wife at that point. The clergyman in San Francisco described Andrew as wearing filthy workers' clothes. His legs were very sunburned and were peeling, and both hands had extreme calluses. And this is another odd part. They stated that the crew cut that he had looked like a 6-year-old did it. That's a lot to swallow right there. That's a lot to swallow. So the clergyman talked. San Francisco said that they were going to put him on a flight from San Francisco to Portland the next day, and then on another short flight into Yakima, where friends and family were waiting. He got off the plane. There was a brief reunion, and then his family drove him with friends to Pasco, Washington. A couple things about this. I probably don't have a 1% belief that this isn't true about Andrew. Here's why. He's a clergyman his whole life. His dad, his grandfather, and his grandfather's father were all clergymen in the Episcopal Church. He didn't have a trade. He didn't know how to work hard, per se, like a laborer. But he comes back with super calloused hands on both hands. You can't account for that. If he was going to go on a vacation and have fun, I don't think he'd be doing that. And then he's another person that comes back with an extreme suntan. What are they doing? So Andrew gets back to his house, and he was asked by his family and friends the next day about what he remembers. And he says the only thing he remembers is he wanted to take the boat to get it fixed because it was leaking. And he knew there was another guy on the other side of the bay, Lofts Bay, that fixed the boats. So he was going to go over there, drop the boat off, and then walk to his car. But as he was going across, it got too rough, so he turned around and came back. And the last thing he remembered was crawling out of the boat onto the dock and then that's it. I go, what do you mean that's it? I don't remember anything else. So think about this. He said he never capsized in the boat, never fell in the water. But think about this. If it was really rough and you didn't want to fall into the water and you're getting out of a little 8-foot boat, you might crawl on your stomach onto the dock to make sure you're not falling in. And then if that's all he remembers, that's why he never probably got the boat tied up. That part makes sense to me. And then he said that he remembers waking up in the cathedral, in the church. And he said also, quote, "My mind is filled with cobwebs." I believe that. His older son, who was 13, was talked to, and he stated that he prayed every day that his dad would come back. And he said in his own mind, he never believed he wouldn't. I'm glad his prayers were answered. So let me bring a couple things to light here. First of all, the fire at the pastor's home in January. Second case of a victim having a fire at their home prior to their disappearance. Sorry. That's a coincidence you just can't ignore. I think it's extremely odd that his uncle died of a drowning in Alaska. How many people in your family have died of drowning? This is another incident where the victim was heavily sunburned. What was he doing for 2 months to get heavily calloused hands and sunburned? Where was he? Andrew was alone at a church conference. Let me preface that. He's at a church conference, hundreds of people. Tells a few friends, hey, I'm going to go to the summer camp and I'm going to see how it is and see how much work we have to do for the summer. It's not that far away. Point of separation. Storm came in, weather front. And he's alone on the water on a dock. What was it about him being in the cathedral in San Francisco and being told the date was June 30th, 1957 that caused him to wake up? What was it? Was it about the date? It was never made clear, and I read 20, 30 articles about this, never made clear why that date was important, or was it just the moment he needed to wake up? I have no idea. And then this is the second case of a church leader going missing. If you've read my Missing 411 books, you know I've written about 2 other Episcopal leaders who disappeared and were later found deceased under the most odd conditions you will ever imagine, which is why I wrote about them. One case was out of Israel, and one case was out of Montana. And they rank up there as extremely unusual. But what is it about Episcopal leaders? I have honestly never spent any time studying the Episcopal Church, so I will not even attempt to think I understand what's going on. But I want you to keep an open mind about this. A couple people said a couple weeks ago, oh, look at all the people that are disappearing in San Francisco, or reappearing in Los Angeles. All these people are reappearing in Los Angeles. Well, now you've starting to got the taste of, it's not just Los Angeles. There's a few in Louisiana, there's a few in Florida, there's a few in North Carolina. Why them? Yeah, So I hope I have you hooked in to this series. And I hope you're telling other friends about it, because I'm not making any summations about what is happening, because I don't know. But I will tell you, it's not normal. And as far as I'm concerned, it is water related. In my mind, it is 100% water related. So, please take care. I'm going to be making an appearance in February at MUFON Phoenix. If you Google Phoenix MUFON, MUFON, I'm going to be speaking there, I think, the second week in February. And there'll be some instructions there about how to get tickets. It'll probably be sold out. Last two times I was there, it was sold out. So if you want to get the tickets, get there early. And there might be a phone number there or an email to contact to have them hold tickets for you. I'll get more information on it, but make your plans now. February is the month to be in Phoenix. Trust me about that. Hopefully I'll see a lot of you guys there. I will be talking about some extremely riveting things at that presentation. In the meantime, you are appreciated. You can buy signed posters, my books, and DVDs at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Thanks a million. Remember, be nice. It's the kindness revolution. Paulides out.